Hey Radiant Souls, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome for the first time. My name is Heather. I am so excited and delighted that you will spend a few minutes with me here today talking about the topic of today's video, which is the monthly energy forecast for March 2025. Now, if you are coming to this video after March 2025, I would encourage you still to watch. There may be some things that are still relevant, resonant, and right for you in whatever time this message is reaching you. Time is kind of, as you know, I'm sure, a construct. It isn't as linear as we like to think it is. So although there are commonalities in what we will be walking through in the next 4 to 5 weeks, if you've come to this message after that, I would trust the nudge that led you here to watch it and see if there aren't still some messages that can help you navigate whatever it is that you're going through at whatever time it is that you're watching. There's a little bit of a lay of the land for the monthly energy forecasts that I just want to share with you. Again, if you're new here, we have a theme. It's typically a word or a phrase. We have a channeled message that I will share with you from my team of guides. We have a little bit of a discussion after that where I unpack some other things that came through to me in a separate channeled state or as I was gearing up to talk about this month. And this was a really fun month. I got a lot of different messages that I'm excited to dive into with you. Then we share the art. I also channel an art piece that represents the frequency of the theme that we're talking about. And this piece of art is something that you can download for free from my website and work with it throughout the month. Calibrate your energy to that frequency in the art. Use it as a meditation piece. You can also purchase a fine art print of it if you want to have it in your home. And we'll talk about that later, and there'll be links down below for that. I share an affirmation, and then typically we have some takeaways or some homework, or as I like to call it, soul work. Just different activities or meditations or visualizations that we can use to further integrate the energies and navigate our way through the month. So the theme for the month of 2025, March 2025, is correspondence. And when I first heard that, it didn't click for me what that meant. I thought, does that mean we're going to have issues with correspondence, maybe technology going down, emails not going through, phone calls not going through, whatever it is, and that we may see that. I won't rule that out. But the primary theme or theme within the theme of correspondence is the Hermetic principle of as above, so below. So as you're hearing my team of guides talk about correspondence, I want you to keep that in mind, as above, so below, how we are corresponding in correspondence with the higher aspects of ourselves. And they'll definitely dive into a little bit more of that for you. But I want to share the definition of correspondence, or a couple of them, with us as well, just to level set as we start to talk through this today. A close similarity, connection, or equivalence, that's one definition. Communication by exchanging messages, that's another. So keeping those two things kind of in as your frame of reference when you're watching this. So let's get to the channeled message next, and I'll be back at the end of that so that we can unpack, we can discuss, I can share a few more things that came up from my perspective, including a totem animal that wants to share its messages or its kind of spiritual properties with us. And I have an element of nature this month, as well as a specific crystal that I was guided to share with you and talk about so that we can work with its energy to support us throughout the month as well. Channel messages first, then we'll get to all that stuff, and I'll see you in just a couple of moments. Hello, bright and beautiful beings. We are so honored to speak with you today in this time-space reality through this mechanism of technology that you are sharing with one another. It is our highest honor to share our perspective, and we ask you that you know that our perspective is only one perspective of many, yours included. We simply have a different vantage point than you do for the time and space reality in which you reside currently. For the month coming up in your time-space reality, we would ask you to consider the theme of correspondence. What many of you will witness or have already begun to witness is in some ways a thinning of the veil. You are aligning more and more incrementally with different aspects of your higher self, different aspects of other timelines, different aspects of other incarnations that for you are parallel lives. And while for many of you that sounds very exciting and it sounds like something that you wish to experience, we would say for some it may feel disorienting. And many of you have begun to experience such symptoms as this. Time feels very differently for you. You often feel different from yourself. And what we mean by that is things that once interested you no longer hold your attention. Things that once upset you no longer trigger you. From our perspective, you are moving, very rightly so, we would say, into a space of neutrality. So we would ask that you picture correspondence as the middle road, the through point, as if you were sending a message from yourself to your higher self, from your higher self to you. And the more you expand that space of neutral, the more you have capacity to hold those knowings, those messages, those perspectives. So as you come further and further into alignment with yourself, you will be able to access more knowledge. You'll be able to access more of your unlimited nature. The beginning of this video mentioned the Hermetic principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. And we would ask you to consider trying this principle on for yourself in this way. As you are going through your day-to-day as a human in this third-dimensional existence. In what way are you feeding information up to your higher self? And what is the quality of that information? Are you feeding drama, petulance, being easily triggered, being easily frustrated, being easily angered? Are you sending that up as a message, as a correspondence? And in so doing, are you then blocking aspects of your higher self, sending messages back down to you? For coming into alignment, as we said earlier, also indicates that you were out of alignment to some degree. So what aspects of your day-to-day pettiness would you be willing to release so that you can clear the channel of communication with your higher selves? For when you fully step into this alignment, which we see for many of you coming clearer and clearer over the next year to 3 years, you will have available knowledge of your concurrent or parallel lives in a way in which it would be like checking out a book from a library. I would like to see what that version of me knows about this particular topic, for maybe he or she has learned something that I haven't yet learned. And you can have that transfer of knowledge. And it will become very easy for many of you. It will almost feel second nature. You will have this expanded awareness of all that you are, and not every version or iteration or incarnation of you, for that may be overwhelming for your energy and your frequency in this gravitational world in which you live. But you will find that you can easily connect to those timelines, those lifetimes, those incarnations, those versions of you that are most relevant and resonant with the purpose and the mission that you have in this particular lifetime. But it is not flipping a switch. It is not an overnight process. It will take you releasing the things that weigh you down, releasing the things that you find trigger you, and maintaining a higher, clearer frequency. And we do not mean higher is better. Many of you have that interpretation. Higher is just higher. You do not look at a piano and say the keys at the top of the keyboard are better because they're higher. They are just a higher note. Same with frequency. So as you are looking at those day-to-day things for yourselves that you can potentially shed so that you can become a clearer channel for you, consider breaking the word correspondence out into your core response. What are your core responses? What are your go-tos, as you would say, in your time and space? What card do you frequently play with yourself, with one another, with world events? And is it truly you, or is it a learned behavior? Is it a learned mechanism? Is it a learned perspective? If it is not yours, dear friends, let it go, for that keeps you out of your authenticity. And we find many of you wearing hats and perspectives and viewpoints that do not resonate with the truth in your soul, but you cannot see it because it is how you have always been. So taking a moment to excavate those layers of yourself whenever anything comes up that warrants a response from you. If it is an emotion that is generated, imagine popping that emotion out of your physical form and looking at it as a multidimensional existence, an orb, if you will. And can you see the story of where that emotion comes from? Can you see its origin point? And if so, heal that aspect of yourself or let it go, whichever is the right action for you. It will vary from emotion to emotion, reaction to reaction, person to person. But really using this time to clear that up so that your correspondence with your higher self, your as above, so below, as below, so above, that becomes clearer. And in so doing, more easily sustainable. So what is your core response to something? Correspondence. You could even say, how do you dance with your core response? Or does it make you dance? It's this song that you keep playing for yourself and you know the steps so well that you just fall into it effortlessly. This is the time to deconstruct that for yourselves. Find that neutral zone. And for those of you who are experiencing the symptoms that we spoke about, feeling time out of place, experiencing increased, frequent, prolonged deja vu, know that this ability to access those other aspects of yourselves is coming online for you. It is a time of a bleed through almost, if you will, where you can almost hear the other song of you being sung, but you can't quite make out the full melody. You can't quite hear the lyrics yet, but it's in the distance. It's coming closer. Maintain your clear channel. Look at your core response and work on that correspondence with yourself. We thank you for listening to our message at this time. Be blessed, dear friends. As I was working on the messages for this month, I was shown a few different things that we'll talk about here in a minute, but I want to touch back on what the team was mentioning about correspondence because I just want to make sure we're getting it. There were a few different aspects of it. And one of the things that came up for me, and I've been hearing this a lot in conversations with many of you, that we're experiencing this disjointed nature of time. And we're experiencing more frequent, and as the team said, prolonged deja vu. And I have this phrase in my head that may not translate or make sense to some of you, but it's almost like spirit or soul seepage. It's like it's dripping through in a way where we kind of see images bleeding one into the next. And some are the present moment, some are the present moment, but in a different dimension or a different reality. And it can be really strange. It can be kind of fun, but it can also be disorienting. I just want to share that here. If you're experiencing that, you're not alone. There are many going through it like that. We are also seeing the symptoms of this bleed through, this thinning of the veil happening in the dream space, where people are either feeling that they are less and less present in their dream, or they are having much more vivid dreams with incredible detail. And that is another calibration for you, if you want to look at it that way, where you're building that channel of correspondence with yourself. I loved that the team talked about this aspect of better alignment with these parallel lives. So many of us have thought of the ascension or the awakening as, I'm going to be this expanded version of myself. And in the way we think about it, we see ourselves maybe being better contributors to or influenced by this collective that is also ascending and expanding and awakening. But I'm doing this motion because so many of us talk about it's going to be an ascension. We imagine that's going up, and we're going to go up and out, and we're going to be less tied to this physical body. We're going to be less tied to this gravitational reality. And I think it's not quite that way. We are bringing that back down. And so when we're talking about as above, so below, as below, so above, it's incorporating that higher frequency into here, into your physical body, into this physical realm, and bringing that here. And then using what you have here in this physical realm to contribute to the as above. And in doing that, you have that strong channel or that neutral space. I want to reaffirm that as well. The less triggered you can be either for the really great stuff that you would celebrate or the really bad stuff. Find a neutral. We're very spiky as humans. We're kind of almost like gnats with our attention, where we can just, oh, this really great thing happened and this really bad thing happened. And when we're so reliant on those external forces to get the hit, whether it's, oh, it's something bad or, oh, it's something good, when we're deriving our meaning from that, we're separating out of our authenticity. We're separating out of our empowerment. But the more you can find the middle, the neutral, the better. And I like that the team explained, I'm not sure it made sense the way it came through me as the channel. I won't blame them. I'll blame me as the channel. But that middle ground, they're showing it. To me, it looks like a road or a pathway. And that is the pathway through which your correspondence flows. So if you don't have any neutral right now, you're going to have a hard time finding that connection with your higher self. And I'm just looking at my notes because I don't want to miss anything. So much information came through this month that it was really kind of fun. Touching again on the 2 to 3 years, or 1 to 3, I think they said, but I wrote down 2 to 3 from earlier, where we'll have this more acute knowledge of what's going on with us in our other lifetimes. If you want it, I don't think it will be presented to anyone or accessible to anyone who doesn't desire that. But many of you watching something like this may wish to tap in that way. And I think that's going to become easier for us to do. Not in a way that feels distracting. I just saw an image of having too many tabs on your browser window open. I don't think it feels like that. I don't think it's like constantly, oh, I have 72 different versions of me and they're all doing this. And it feels like this chaos. I think it's the purposeful connection where I was a healer, or I am being a healer in this other space. What are some of those tools and techniques that are over there? Can I bring that back? Or can I share something I have here with that version of me? And it's this integration that feels really kind of cool and expansive. So look for that. But this is the time where we're crafting and we're calibrating to be able to kind of sustain that connection for ourselves. Because even though I said it wouldn't be chaotic or overwhelming, a lot of us aren't really able to hold that kind of frequency for a sustained, I can't even say it, for a sustained period of time. So this is the time for us to start developing that for ourselves, if that's something that we want. One of the things that came through as a supportive element for us to kind of help navigate through the month was the crystal beryl. It's actually like a crystal family or a species, beryl, B-E-R-Y-L. Within beryl, you have aquamarine, I don't know why I can't talk, morganite, and emerald. And what was interesting when I looked into this more, there's something called chromophores that determines you. So beryl itself, its chemical composition is really clear when it is influenced by other minerals. And this is how crystals work in general, but the message I was getting was specifically for beryl. When it's influenced by different things, chromophores, these different minerals, give different color. So you have the same species, but you have this different iteration or version, if you think of the parallel lives, of the same kind of core material. So If you connect with beryl, you want to wear, you have some aquamarine, some morganite, some emerald, or raw beryl itself. If you just want to wear that as a reminder and harness that ability to be influenced by these other aspects, these chromophores, different colors, different versions of yourself, I think that could be really helpful to wear or have around you in your space this month. I also had a fun or not so fun, depending on how you look at it, experience when I was out for a walk the other day, looking for an element in the natural world that may help us with this message. And this one is going to be maybe a little tricky to tie back into the message, but I'm going to share it anyway because of the nature of the tree that wanted to very boldly be included in the message. So I was walking down a path, and ahead of me, maybe 30 feet ahead of me, was a small stand of cedar trees. And I walk by these trees very often. And I've never seen this happen in years of walking by these trees, by the way. All of a sudden, one of the trees, it looked like there was no breeze. It was perfectly still, but it looked like the tree sneezed and all this pollen shot out. So much so, it was so dramatic that I kind of just, without really thinking, said, "Are you okay?" Like, it was dramatic. And I watched this puff of pollen, knowing that I had to walk under it too to get further along my path. And I thought, oh, my sinuses are going to hate me for that later. But I also connected in with the consciousness of the tree, that it wanted to get attention in that way to come through for us because it was a cedar tree. And when we look at cedar trees in many different cultures, they are revered as spiritual messengers. Some cultures feel that their deities or their gods reside within cedar trees, and that cedar is a tool of communication to the great beyond. So it's a pathway, it's a correspondence pathway. And then whatever pollen means for you too, we probably can't discount that since it was so dramatic in its presentation. And again, what you are scattering out, what you're putting out, maybe looking at your core response in that way. Now that's what's coming to me as I'm talking through this. Sometimes we have a core response to something, meaning an emotion. I get angry because somebody says this. I feel frustrated because somebody isn't respecting me. That can almost feel like an emotional allergic reaction. So paying attention to that, how can you work with that and support yourself to not have those triggers or those buttons so easily pushed? And the last element of the natural world that wanted to come through to support this message was the crow. So again, beautiful messengers, often considered in different cultures, different myths to be communicators with the great beyond. They are also a little bit nosy and into everybody's business. So if you think of that energy of I'm going to connect to these different timelines of myself or these different lifetimes of myself, crows are definitely into a lot of things in a highly intelligent and inquisitive way. So let's take a look at the art for the month. Can you see within this art the same perspective of as above, so below? And there's, so the north-south nodes, if you will, of this art, the elements that are at the top and the bottom. There also is a reflection horizontally, east and west. There is a lot of, now that I'm looking at it, it looks like there's some pollen scattered in different places, but this art came through before the pollen experience. There's also a beautiful mosaic effect in the middle. And there's a lot of texture in the background. There are grid lines. There are things that look like trees. Now that I'm seeing that, again, this art came before the cedar tree, so that's interesting how it all kind of comes together. And there are spirals, which to me indicate like motion through time and things like that. So as always, I would love to hear what you see in the art. We all see something different here. And if you would like to have an example of this to work with throughout the month, you can download a watermarked copy for free from my website, and I'll put a link in the box below. I also offer this as a print, and people love these on canvas or metal fine art paper, whatever is your preference. And I have a limited number of 25 that are signed, numbered, and dated that I mail out personally from me to you. If you like that kind of thing, those are also available. So I'll put that link below as well. The affirmation for the month is aligned with our message as well, and that's a pun intended because it has the word aligned in it. And it makes sense if we are looking to cultivate this relationship with our other aspects and this purity of correspondence, this neutral, this blank, clear space. I am in alignment with my soul's highest and best good across all timelines and lifetimes. I am in alignment with my soul's highest and best good across all timelines and lifetimes. The takeaways for the month, I guess it's a singular takeaway this month, but there are a couple ways that my team was advising we could do this. If you look at the word correspondence, they're going to take it back to the communication aspect, the messaging, the exchanging of messages. And they were saying, could you, in a contemplation, in a meditation, or just kind of writing in a journal for you, or in your notes app, in one of your devices, whatever works for you, or saying it out loud even, having a conversation with your higher self and letting your higher self reply to that. So the way I was envisioning it was taking a journal page and asking, what is it that you need for me in this timeline, in this time, space, reality right now? How can I best advance our soul's mission right now? So I would write out the question and I would go into a contemplative or a meditative space, set my intent to receive an answer, and write down what comes back. And that's just a starting point. You can have that dialogue in any way that works for you. And practice doing that through the month. And if you don't get anything back, don't feel upset or frustrated or, oh, my higher self has abandoned me. It takes some practice sometimes to surrender the logical or the judgment part of our brain that says, am I really doing that? Did I really hear that? Did that come from me? Am I just making that up because that's what I wanted to hear? You can work through all that. It just takes a little practice. So I hope you found these messages helpful as a way to navigate through the month of March 2025, or again, whenever it is that you're coming to this video. I always love hearing what's going on with you, so leave me a comment below. How are things looking for you as you're walking into the new month? Are you experiencing some of the elements of nature that we talked about? Often I will mention an animal or a crystal or a tree or something, and someone has a really beautiful experience with it. So I was hearing crows outside my window as I was filming this. And I love to hear those stories where maybe you have an unusual encounter with something that we've talked about here today, because I think that just proves how we are all connected. All of our consciousness is on this beautiful path of elevation and ascension and awakening together. So thank you for spending some time with me here today. I am so appreciative of your time, your energy, and the light that you shine into the world. So thank you so much. Enjoy your day, and I will see you soon. Bye.